Are you happy to see me?
Always.
I'm very happy to see all of you. So the topic today, is, let me see if I can press the right button.
The topic is Tim Atkinson.
No, how to live a happily ever afterlife. So normally when you watch a good movie and they say, well, they lived happily ever after. But then we only talk about the physical world. But actually, because we understand that our life doesn't end here, what we really want is to have a happily ever afterlife. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yes. So I have some questions for you to consider as you think about the afterlife. So what do you expect will happen when you die? Now, in our community, we actually have a whole section about the purpose of life and the spiritual world. But what about you individually, or what about myself? When I die, what do I imagine will happen? Well, I imagine I will leave my body. I probably see it there, wondering, well, who is that? And then if you read stories of people who have near-death experiences, they go through this tunnel of light, or they meet their relatives, or they may meet their spiritual leader, and then they're told, no, it's not your time, you have to go back. But then what happens if you continue? Well, where will you end up? So then the next question is, where will you go? Are you confident you know where you're going to go?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Somewhere warm.
Somewhere warm. Okay. Well, so again, in our community, we expect we'll end up in a good place. Yes? Does everybody think like that? Yeah. I mean, for those who believe in the afterlife, do people think they're going to live in a nice warm place, a paradise, or heaven? Yeah. So, how many of you think you are going to end up in heaven? Let's see you raise your hands. Well, not every hand is up. Well, I mean, I hope I meet you there, or maybe you come and you meet me there. So we do hope to be in the same place, do we not?
Yes.
Is anybody here you prefer not to see when you go to the next life?
Depends on where you go.
Yeah. And then my third question is, do you think you will be judged? You know, the traditional story of, St. Peter? He's kind of he has to decide where you go. Well, our understanding is that there is a time period, like a 40 days, where it's kind of there's a decide. Well, no, where will you be? So if you think you're going to be in a nice place, but to get there, you have to answer some questions. And also, people with near-death experiences, they have this life review. Yeah, life review. And so maybe they feel, oh no, did I do that when I was on earth? Oh no, and maybe they feel bad. Oh, yeah. And so, will that make any difference? And why do we have a life review? Yeah. We understand, like a video recording, everything is recorded, yes, in our spirit. So, do you think you're going to be judged? Or will you pass the test? Or will there be a test? Or you will just feel the love of God? So these are some questions, not just for us, but for all people. So what is our understanding about life and the afterlife? Well, we understand that we are in a liquid world in the womb for the first 9 months of our life. And that liquid world sustains us. And we have this umbilical cord where we receive all the food to sustain us, and so we can grow. But, as we know, during those 9 months, the physical body is developing lungs. And those lungs are preparing for the physical world. And so when we are born on the earth, if we are ready to enter the physical world, our lungs enable us to breathe in the air to sustain our life. And then, of course, we need the food, and we need the sunshine, and all the things that sustain our physical body. But during our physical life, because we understand we're not just physical beings, but we have a spiritual self. And the purpose of our life during the physical life is to develop our love lungs. In other words, our capacity to love. And so, the family is the school of love. The family is such an important place because that's where, as a child, you should receive God's love through your parents, unconditional love. And as you grow, then that ability that we receive love, but also we need to give love, and that's why having brothers and sisters and friends is important. You can share that love and support each other and help each other and play and have fun. But then the next stage of developing our heart is this relationship between a husband and a wife, which is a commitment for your whole life. And so then this is a deeper level of love and of sharing and of supporting. But of course, the family needs children. And so God's purpose in our life is that we can become like God, that we can become parents, that we can develop unconditional love. And that's why we need children. Of course, to create children is an amazing thing. Yeah? But in terms of preparation for the spiritual world, we need to develop those love lungs, and to become parents is the way we do this. And now that I'm a grandparent, I would say there's another stage. And I really appreciate being at this stage, because then you can really give love freely without all the responsibilities. So the spiritual world, you cannot breathe air there. We're meant to breathe love. So if we grow in the way we're meant to grow, then we can be in heaven, a place of unconditional love. And we live there for eternity. So actually the time we live on earth is very important, but it will not last. What's more important is the next life. But of course we know that if we, in this physical world, we don't develop as we should, and we have trauma, or in our childhood, or our parents were dysfunctional, or we made many mistakes, then our hearts have not matured enough, and our ability to breathe this air of love is limited. So that's why in the spiritual world there are different realms, because people, where they go is what reflects their level of development. So we hope that we here have, by the time we do go to the next life, we have developed to such an extent that we're already in the kingdom of heaven, actually within ourselves. So what does our founder say? He says, those who know the existence of the spirit world know that a lifetime on earth is but a fleeting moment, and the eternal world awaits them after death. A lifetime is merely preparation for the world of eternity. And I feel so lucky myself, and I would assume that most of you feel the same, that we have this understanding. We should live fully in this life. We should enjoy this physical life, but understand it's a preparation for the next life. So, in order to get to the spiritual world, when we leave the physical world, then there's something that we learn from near-death experiences, and that is that in order to go into the spiritual world, there is this light. We have to go towards the light. And that's our destination. If we don't go to the light, then we're still earthbound. And I would like to tell you about a book I read recently which inspired me to have this title. And this book is called How to Live a Happily Ever After Life, and it's subtitled Stories of Trapped Souls and How Not to Become One. And this is Echo Bodine, and she's an American psychic medium, and she has had many experiences of releasing trapped souls, of earthbound spirits, and her purpose, for example, she's had TV programs, going to a house that's haunted, or where the spirits are stuck there and causing problems, and her job, because she can see them, and she can talk to them, is to say, you must go to the light. You're not meant to stay here. You know, you're disturbing people. You need to go on. Go to the light. And they can see the light. And so if you can convince them, they go to the light. So in order to get to the spiritual world, that's what we need to do. But unfortunately, there are many people, when they leave this physical world, are not in the spiritual world. They're in between. They're stuck. This is what she says. Some souls choose to remain close to this dimension rather than move into the light when they die. Most have one thing in common: unfinished business from their lives that leaves them restless, unable to let go and move on. My intention here is to explain why some make that choice. To do that, I will share with you what I have learned over the last 50 plus years of working with those whose souls have left their bodies. And she comes up with 6 reasons why these spirits are earthbound. The first one, denying they are dead. So if you don't believe in the spiritual world and you die, but you're still conscious and still yourself, then many people don't know they're dead, and they're in denial. Of course, we, because of our understanding, we don't have that problem, I hope. Yes? So I'd like to tell you one story about the dead soldier. So that's not the dead soldier. That's just a depiction of somebody. So a client contacted me about a ghost who was jumping on her bed every night, trying to scare her. When she came home from work each day, she found clothes pulled out of her closet and items knocked off her dresser. Anyone had that experience? Anybody had a ghost in their home? You have? Yes. Scary? A little scary, yes. Well, so she goes to this the client and to try to help this spirit go to the spirit world. I asked the soul, Kenneth, why he was in this house, bothering this woman. He said he had gone off to fight in Vietnam, and when he returned, had found this woman living in his house. He told me he just wanted her to get out so he could live in peace. Well, it's obvious, isn't it? The thing is, this soldier, when she saw him, he had a hole in his body. She could see through. He looked really disheveled, like kind of really stressed out. Yeah, but he didn't know he was dead. I asked Kenneth what year he thought it was, and he replied that it was 1968. I told him it was 1990 and that he had died in Vietnam. Kenneth became really agitated and lunged at me, trying to get me to leave. He yelled that he was not dead and that the woman in his house was the problem, not him. This confrontation went on for close to 4 hours. He would leave for long periods of time, then come back and go through the whole routine with me all over again. He was clearly convinced that he was not dead. He did eventually move to the other side, but it took a lot of explaining to finally get him to go. Because he didn't believe he was dead. He created his own reality. I'm alive. She's in my home. Get out, And how dare you say I'm dead? I'm not dead. I'm alive. It's obvious. I'm alive. So the second is resistance to change. People are very comfortable living in their physical life. They've got their routines, They just want to continue. Well, I don't go anywhere else. I'm comfortable here. So this is the story of a dead teacher. I'm a teacher. So I don't know if any of you do you know of any schools that are haunted? No. Yes, well, this particular one, this is in America. And she says, then there was the high school teacher, who was dead, whom I met one evening at the school after the school's principal called me for help. Students were seeing her walk the halls, and it was freaking them out. The teacher had died of cancer a few months before and was actually pulling people's hair or touching them on the shoulder as she wandered the halls. When I asked the teacher why she didn't want to go into the light, she told me that the students needed her. When I asked my spirit guides about it, they said that she did not want to change. She wanted to continue with her daily routine because it was all she knew and all she wanted to know. So if you're stuck somewhere, you've got your routines, this is my life, I'm happy with this life, I'm needed, I want to continue. I've been in this school for years, so I want to stay here. Again, creating a false reality because of your beliefs. And probably she doesn't think she's dead either. Yeah. Third reason, to avoid someone. To avoid someone on the other side. They don't want to go to the spirit world because, well, maybe they did something to somebody. Maybe they killed somebody, or they just don't want to see somebody. They feel uncomfortable. I don't want to be there. No. I'll stay here. Stay on the earth because over there, there's a person I do not want to meet. The dead wife. A student of mine, a student of Echo Bodine, she was teaching her about spiritual things. She said, a student of mine committed suicide. She had just told her husband what she wanted for dinner, and by the time he arrived home, she was dead. She'd committed suicide. No one knew there was any problem. Yeah. So she said, yeah, I'd like to have this for dinner. Yeah, and then he comes home, she's dead. I found her still at home. Yeah, so what happened is, I can read this. Maybe I just go back a little bit. So you would expect that when a person dies, they go to their funeral. But she was not there. She was not at her own funeral. So I wonder why. She was actually in her kitchen. Said, I found her still at home in the kitchen. She said she was waiting for her family to come home for dinner and that they were very, very late. You know, where are you? Where are you? But she's committed suicide. I checked on her 3 months after her death and she was still there. After another 3 months, she was finally gone. My guide said she was on the other side, but trying to avoid her parents. She was feeling guilty about having taken her own life. Yeah. So he commits suicide. Yeah, well, I know it's wrong, and I don't want to meet my parents because they'll be upset with me. Why did you do that? Addictions. Anybody here addicted to anything? Yes. Coffee. Okay. Well, you might have problems when you leave there. So addictions. So be alcoholic. Yes. I once went out to dinner with a friend who was an active alcoholic. I call him John. He never drank anything harder than beer, but this particular night he ordered a gin and tonic. As soon as the waiter set down the drink, I saw a male soul enter John's body. John ordered 3 more drinks, and I watched as he became quite intoxicated and obnoxious. When we went back to his house after dinner, he searched for a bottle of hard liquor that he kept for his sister. Then he proceeded to get even more drunk. Just before he passed out, I saw the male spirit leave his body, then turn and smile at me. Creepy. There are many stories of mediums who see in a bar where people are drunk, where a spirit can enter and get satisfied. Because if you're addicted on this earth to alcohol, and that's what's important to you, when you leave your body, you still got the urge for alcohol. So you want to find somebody who's an alcoholist, then you can be satisfied. Yeah. So addiction, same with drugs. If you leave your body and you died because of an overdose of drugs, you want to find somebody who's also a drug addict so that you can get the high. Wanting justice, revenge. Yes, I'm going to get back at you. Yes, we know that, like ancestors who want to visit their descendants because you did something to me. You know, your ancestor killed my ancestor, so I'm going to take revenge. Of course, that's over many generations, but also it can be in this generation. So, does anybody know who this is? The dead actor. This is, well, I'll read. It says here, other souls stay put because of a desire for justice. I once saw deceased actor-comedian John Belushi screaming that he had been ripped off. He was very angry that he was dead and claimed that the woman with whom he had been having a relationship had caused his overdose. It was really sad to see how tormented he was, floating around the astral plane looking for justice. She says earthbound spirits are in this in-between place called the astral plane. So this is a real person. Yeah? Have you ever seen any of his movies? No? Well, so the real story is that in 1982, John Belushi died from combined drug intoxication after drug dealer Kathy Smith injected him with a mixture of heroin and cocaine. So his life was ended suddenly, and he's very angry. Very angry. And so that anger goes, you know, it's like repeated over and over again. That's why they're stuck, because they can't get out of this mindset. Fear of punishment and judgment. So, heaven or hell? The number one reason why souls choose to remain earthbound is that they are afraid that God will punish them for something they did in their lifetime. These souls have a strong belief in a punitive God, like God is a God of justice and punishment. Because the concept of hell, of Satan and fire and brimstone was strongly impressed upon them, they live in constant fear that they will spend all eternity there. Unsure of whether they are bound for heaven or hell, they simply choose to remain earthbound and refuse to cross over. So, of course, where do people get these concepts from? Religion. So what are the traditional religions' understanding about the next life? Well, let's explore. Christians believe all believers survive death and either go to heaven or to suffer in hell while we wait for the resurrection of the body. So if you're a believer, you could go to heaven, but if you're not a believer, if you're not a Christian, you're going to hell. Yes? But we're waiting for Christ to come back so that we can be resurrected from the grave. That's not a very hopeful future. Catholics, we have a Catholic here, a few Catholics. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Catholics believe in purgatory, an intermediate place where the souls of the faithful go to be purified so they can enter heaven, which is entirely different from the punishment of the damned. Again, you know, but Catholics, they have to go to this in-between place. They have to still pay for their sins before they're allowed to go on. But if you're not a Catholic, you're definitely going to be damned forever, eternity. Traditional Jews have different opinions, views, but this is a traditional view. They believe that immortality brings the resurrection of the body and soul, followed by God judging the worthiness of their lives. Again, judge. You're going to be judged. Muslims believe death is the end of physical life, after which the spirit rests in the grave until Judgment Day. A lot of judgment here. Buddhists believe that upon death they are reborn into another life determined by karma. So if you've been good, you know, if you've been bad, maybe you'll end up as like an insect or, you know, but it's very much judgment. And then finally, what about Hindus believe that the afterlife consists of a span of time spent in a heaven or a hell, depending on the karma they have built up in this life. So unfortunately, traditional religions give a very dark picture of kind of judgment. You're going to be judged. Of course, religion is also God's way to educate people and teach people how to be good. But unfortunately, maybe the founders of the religions didn't convey all this judgment. But certainly in the Christian church, there is that judgment, People who are heretics, will burn them, I mean, it's terrible, it's awful. This is not God's love. These are human beings who are judgmental themselves. So where does judgment come from? Not from God, but from human beings who condemn others because you're bad, you're evil. Yeah. So how come the religions of the world can have such a wrong idea and a fearful idea of God and the afterlife? Well, it all comes down to ignorance. Ignorance. Wrong understanding. And that's why people are afraid to go to the next life, because they don't understand. So if we look at these reasons, denying they are dead, you deny you're dead because you're ignorant of the fact that you are dead or there's a spiritual world. You resist change, because you're ignorant of what's beyond this life. And you to avoid someone because you're ignorant of actually what will really happen if you meet that person. If you meet a person that you did something bad to, well, in that sense you could feel judged, but still you can't avoid it. And addiction. When you're addicted, you're totally ignorant about the value of your physical life and the spiritual life. And wanting justice is because, resentment, hatred, revenge, this is not love. This doesn't help you to grow. This actually stunts your growth. And finally, fear of punishment is not true. We should not be afraid of anything, but fear controls us. If I look at my own life, to what extent has fear affected my life? I have to say, there's a lot of it. A lot of it coming from childhood, fear of punishment from my parents, or fear of punishment in school, fear of punishment from the church. Yeah. But I don't just think it's related to religion, and I don't think it's, I think everybody is dealing with this. Everybody. But it's like a false idea, because actually we are loved, but we don't realize it. So because of this ignorance, then human beings feel separation from God. Feel that God is out there far away. But that's a false idea. That's ignorance, because God is within us. God is in everything, because God created everything. But God created us as the supreme creations. And God planted in us his spirit. We are temples of God. So we don't have to look for God out there. God is within us. We need to go within. Of course, if I know that God is within me, then I know God is within you. And if then I look at you through God's eyes, I see your beauty and your goodness. I don't see that you are better or worse than me, but you are just like me. You are created by God, just like me. You are beautiful. So if you look through God's eyes, you don't feel separated. You feel actually one with everybody. We're all the same. So if I ask you, did you feel God today? I've asked these questions before. And say, yeah, maybe, I'm not sure. Did you feel God this week? So why is this? So even if I intellectually understand that God is within me, do I experience it? Or do I feel some separation? I don't feel God today, And then also, God is far away. He's out there somewhere, but I don't feel God. Right? So I feel this separation. Even if intellectually, God is in me, but I don't feel it. So what about if God showed a pathway to get to him? Yeah. And say, look, this is the way to find God. But actually, I'm not worthy. Yeah, I'm not good enough. Yeah, I'm not worthy. Or, yeah, I'm not good enough. So it's like... So it's like we judge ourselves. We judge that I'm not worthy. Even if we have been members of this unification movement for many, many years, do you feel worthy? There are many things that we've been asked to do. Like, we want to create a world of peace and harmony. And we've been given this understanding. We want to share it. We want to tell lots and lots of people. But how many people have you brought? How many people have you shown, a better way of life? When I joined, we should find 3 spiritual children. Anybody done that yet? Some people, yeah, well done. You can go straight to heaven, you know. So it's like we can judge ourselves. I'm supposed to do this, and I haven't done it, and I'm not good enough. Yeah, but that's totally false. Why is it false? Well, there's this inner conflict within us, right? This inner conflict between our original nature, God dwelling in us, our true nature, and our fallen nature. You could say like our self-centeredness, our limited thinking, and then there's our true who we really are. Now, if we consider we have 2 natures, is this going to stay with us a whole life? Or we always got 2 natures? No, we have a true nature coming from God. God is dwelling in us. That's who we really are. We should identify with who we really are. And this fallen nature, this self-centeredness, is like, it's not who we really are. But if we continue to think, well, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough because I'm both good and bad, I can't overcome it, I've got this struggle within myself, oh, woe is me, then you never can get beyond that. So, if we really want to know what God is like, then we should come to the story of the prodigal son. And this is one of the most famous stories about the son who wanted his inheritance, and he got it, and he went off, and he squandered it, and he ended up with nothing, and he was eating pig food, and then he came home, and when his father saw him, what did his father do? He ran to meet him, he embraced him. But his other son, who'd been a good son, staying at home the whole time, he was jealous. So he felt, why are you having a party for him? Because his brother was not looking through God's eyes, but the father, unconditional love. He forgave him completely. Yeah, and we know stories of if there's a mother, her son did very bad crimes, and he's on death row and he's going to be executed, the mother still loves him. So do we have to be good in order to be loved? But do I feel that God loves me no matter what I've done wrong in my life? What's more important, what I've done wrong and right, or that I'm loved? Do I realize I'm loved? Does God loves us no matter what? Because we're created by God. And where is God? God is close to us, right within us. So what about this idea of God being a God of judgment? It's like over many centuries. We've been conditioned. It's hard to get this out, this feeling of not good enough or feeling I'm going to be judged. I remember when I was a teacher in the English school here in Stockholm, and one day the principal, I came late, and he was really disappointed with me. I felt guilty. Yeah. Or I think in my life, if I've done wrong, I have a strong conscience, so if I do wrong, I feel bad. Well, you can say, well, it's good you feel bad, then you don't do those bad things again. But I feel it's like it's too much. Judging myself too easily. I made a mistake, let it go. So, our founder says this: in the Old Testament age, Moses introduced only the God of authority, the God of power, and the God of judgment. But he was not able to introduce the God of love. It was Jesus who introduced his love. Yet to human beings who live in the realm of Satan, God appears as the fearful God of judgment. So the realm of Satan is this kind of place within ourselves where we feel far away from God, or where we have kind of very kind of low kind of ways of thinking. Yeah. God is not someone to fear. He is the one closest to us. If you meet God, even if you ride on his back and pull his hair, he will enjoy it. It is as when a beloved grandson grabs his grandfather's hair and climbs on his back. The grandfather enjoys this. God is our parent, is he not? God is our parent. We are loved. So the truth is, the truth is There is no judgment. There is no judgment. God does not judge. I can judge you, you can judge me, I can judge myself. But God does not judge. How can a loving parent who has this unconditional love for his child judge? We judge ourselves. There's a story about a man who had a near-death experience, and in the near-death experience, he had a life review, and then what came up was a time when he was a child, and he bullied this boy. He bullied him. And in this reenactment of what happened, he felt how the boy felt. That was judgment. He could feel how that person felt. Because if you bully someone on earth, and I mean, you like to bully them, you don't feel their pain. But in the spiritual world, if you've hurt somebody, you feel their pain. That's how God feels. If we have the same heart as God, we cannot hurt anyone because we would feel the pain we give them. So there is no judgment. Would you agree with me? There is no judgment. We just judge ourselves, or people judge each other. If I think I'm better than you, I judge you. If I think I'm worse than you, I judge you. If I'm right and you're wrong, I'm judging. So we should get rid of all this kind of judging and thinking who's right or wrong, but just see the goodness in people. And secondly, we create our own reality. Based upon our background, our childhood, and our life, we see through our particular lens. So those people in spirit world and not in spirit world who are stuck on the earth, they're creating their hell. They're creating their reality. Because thoughts become things. And in the spiritual world, whatever you think appears. So we have to be careful with our thoughts. But let us have hope. Do you believe the world is getting better?
Yes.
Good. Can I hear that again? Do you believe the world is getting better?
Yes.
Who thinks it's getting worse? Yes. Well, externally, yes. Yes, we can see. But, so, if people only knew there is a spiritual world and that we're spiritual beings, if people knew it, what a difference it would make. Because we understand this, it's made a whole difference to my life. Total difference. But can you talk to people about the next life? They don't want to talk about it. No, it's fantasy. Leave me alone. But if people live on this earth with no knowledge at all about spirit world, when they leave the body, that's where the problems occur. Because they had no concept. In fact, they say, why didn't you tell me about this, But I want to give you some hope because we know, certainly in my lifetime, more and more information is coming about this existence of the spiritual world. It's amazing. That's why I read all these books. So I want to read a prophecy given to... This thing keeps... Come here. There we are. Claire Doherty is a psychic medium. She's one of our members. Last year, she received information from Spirit World and made predictions about last year. One was, several of them, there would be political instability, so we have Ukraine. There would be supply chain issues, so that's why we have inflation. And but this year, and she also said there would be a spiritual awakening. Yes, which I think is happening under the surface. But then she made predictions for this year. Has anyone actually read them? On her Facebook page. So I want to quote something from what she said, which is very hopeful about understanding about the spiritual world. The spiritual world will be visibly active on the earth plane. New information will become accessible, giving firm evidence for the continuity of life after the physical change called death. This will occur on two levels. Many will have spiritual experiences that they cannot easily explain away. And two, there will be technological advances to show irrefutably something more beyond the material visible world. Did you know the technology to connect to the spiritual world already exists? But it's not. So there's actually on YouTube, Ava, we were looking at this because this man, he has this box, and he asks a question of a spirit and he gets an answer. And the answer may come like, wow, like this, so it's hard to understand, but because the technology is limited. But so this is what she says also. The first step will be a new understanding of the electric magnetic fields around all living things. Although these invisible energies are extensions of the physical form, they are not visible to the naked eye. This new understanding will stretch the boundaries of hard science, helping some with a very limited material view of reality recognize there is more to research and discover. Some of these major breakthroughs will be in the field of physics and electrical engineering. Some of these new understandings or discoveries will be accidental or unintended, much like the story of Post-it notes. Post-it notes, just by chance, when you make a mistake. So this is very hopeful. So, all these years being in our movement and understanding about the spiritual world and about how we should live on this earth. But we need some breakthrough so the average person can realize, well, there is something there. There is something more. Because if people realize there's another life and they're spiritual beings, it will make a whole huge change to their lives. It's this ignorance. It's this kind of false reality that's created. This is the problem. We need to see the truth. So I would like to finish by saying, there is no judgment, and we create our own reality. And finally, may I say, may I say,
Try it right, Harry.
thank you for listening.